Simply, cap and trade refers to government setting a cap on emissions and polluters having allowances under that cap that they can then buy and sell. Would we all agree that that's the essence of cap and trade? How those allowances are given is, that's a policy question, but cap and trade, you set a cap, people under the cap can buy and sell their allowance. This bill relies heavily on that to meet emissions targets. So the cap is what sets the emissions target. What are the pros and cons to this approach, and are there better ways to accomplish emissions reductions?
The cap and trade type of structure does work in the right situation. Again, let's talk though about the way it was used with the Clean Air Act of 1990, and this is one of those places where you cannot talk to politics without understanding at least some modicum of the science. Then we were talking about sulfur dioxide. It was relatively easy for the coal-fired generating plants to either fuel shift and buy lower sulfur coals, and there was a great loss of jobs here in Indiana in the mining industry. Back 30 years ago, there were thousands of United Mine Worker jobs in the state of Indiana. Today, there is not one. Not one. The fuel shift occurred because Western coals came in much lower sulfur, much lower BTU. You had to burn more coal to get the same amount of heat, but it worked. The same is true with nitrous oxides. It was easier to make those technical adjustments at the plant, if you will, and that's a very simple statement for a lot of chemistry on the back end of the plant, because they're often described anymore. They're chemical plants on the end of coal-fired generating stations. But they were able to do that with cap and trade. I do not dispute that one bit. But that is totally different in its economic effect. When that was happening, the only people that were affected were the coal producers, the utilities, and those who were in the range of that utility that decided to pay higher prices for lower sulfur.
How does this bill, Waxman and Markey, speak to overall public health issues in terms of air pollutants or impacts on air quality? Richard?
Yeah, I'll reference again the book, Cool It, Bjorn Lomborg. Item number one, he said if you want to get effective cost-benefit ratio, the first thing you do is put an end to malaria. Now that's a health issue. Second thing he said was the cost-benefit would be to make sure every citizen of the world has clean water to drink. That would be a health issue. Third issue on his list was to make sure there was sanitation in every household around the world. That would be a health issue. I just heard Jesse say it. We don't know. So we're going to spend hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars for something for which there is arguably, and Jesse just said it, no real demonstrable demonstration that there's going to be any effect in health of any of it. And isn't that the point? I mean, isn't that what we went down this whole road for, to have this whole science discussion? It was about the betterment of mankind, aka health issues, and now we're saying there aren't any. This is why this debate, and again, we go from science to politics here. 0.038% of our air is carbon dioxide. Of that 0.038, it is estimated that man's influence is about 4%. 4%. So we can do this all day long. On that small portion of the atmosphere, we are not going to make one bit of difference, especially given that the other nations of the world that are the greatest emitters of greenhouse gases aren't following. And by the way, it was said when we started modernizing our cars instead of requiring unleaded gas and catalytic converters, that we were doing it because of clean air, and we would be the model for the rest of the world. There were more new cars sold in China last year than in the United States for the first time in history. More new cars sold in China than in the United States. They don't have our emission standards, folks. They didn't follow our lead. They're not going to. They'd rather us see ourselves, spend ourselves into non-productive businesses.
So Richard, what I'm hearing you say is, in terms of public health, you think there'd be minimal, if any, zero effect?
Less than minimal, zero.
Zero, okay. In terms of air quality, you don't think it's an air quality problem to begin with, so really no change there.
No, I mean, if we're talking about global warming, global climate change, because it said here the last 11 years it hasn't gone up, even though CO2 emissions have gone up, by the way. By the way, again, students, when you get home tonight, Google Vostok, V-O-S-T-O-K, Vostok ice cores. Supposedly the smoking gun of this whole scientific...
So Richard, I'm going to go ahead and cut you off because we're talking climate science.
But this is the issue regarding the health, because it is
carbon dioxide. Maybe talk to that issue.
Okay. If you look at those ice cores, you see that carbon dioxide went up after temperature increase. In other words, it wasn't that carbon dioxide was going up and global temperatures were following it. It was the reverse. which incidentally is exactly the model of the last 20 years. And if carbon dioxide at that small percentage isn't changing the Earth's temperature, then again, why are we having this discussion about whether or not it's a health issue?
And the other issue.
We support this bill as a good first step, or should we wait for something else to come along?
This is going to be tough, Tim.
Well, bring it. You can do it.
This is not a good first step. And it's not a good first step. And again, I'm trying, and the reason this is tough is I don't want to go into science because I know you don't want us to go into the science. But you cannot make a good informed citizen's decision if you don't have some understanding of the very basic important parts of the science discussion.